Let's talk about Marvel's What If episode 2, which after watching it, I think should have probably been episode 1 of Marvel's What If. In this episode, the hypothetical scenario slash alternate universe variant story is what if T'Challa, who's supposed to be Black Panther, was Star-Lord instead? How would that change the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I love this episode. This episode blew away the first one, yo. This should have been the first episode for a number of reasons. Number one, it was way more fun. It was way more lighthearted. It was way more of a better introduction, I think, with characters that are a bit more important, if you ask me. Not to say that Agent Carter and Captain America are not important, because they are, but by the time we get to Endgame and the fact that Captain America was so de-emphasized in episode 1 of What If, I feel like this episode would have been a much better like introduction to what this series is about. Plus, the changes here I feel are much stronger than what happened in the first episode. Like, I think the writers were able to take these ideas and really have a lot of fun. You could tell they were having fun when they wrote this, and the performers who actually acted it out were also having a good time. They explained early in the episode that, and it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Yondu's like boneheaded comic relief henchmen were supposed to go to Earth to find Peter Quill, but instead they find the young T'Challa, and then he ends up being Star-Lord, and that changes the turn of events for the entire MCU, for at least that universe. There are so many things I loved about this episode. First of all the changes I thought were great. I thought they were all phenomenal. I loved T'Challa as Star-Lord. He might be better than the actual Star-Lord that we got. I love the fact that all the actors came back. Well, at least most of them came back to reprise their roles. So, like, Thanos is in this episode. He's a likable good guy who changed his mind about his plans, who was played by Josh Brolin. Michael Rooker reprised his role as Yondu for this. Really appreciated that. Then, the one that did surprise me, Benicio del Toro played the Collector, who was the villain of the episode. He was fantastic, and the one that stole it for me, also Karen Gillan was Nebula, like, all of the TV actors, or whatever, all the movie actors did the TV. And, of course, the highlight for me would have been Seth Green playing Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck and his scene stole this episode for me, man. Stole this episode for me. Now, Drax the Destroyer did make a cameo here, but it was played by Fred Tatasciore, not Dave Bautista. I'm not really sure why. I don't know, but that maybe he was busy or whatever the case is. Seth Green is Howard the Duck. Dude, I want an animated Howard the Duck spinoff with Seth Green voicing him. That's what I want. That's what I would love to see. Get like James Gunn to supervise it, somebody who knows how to write good comedy. I would absolutely adore if they did that. But probably the most emotional thing was that Chadwick Boseman, before he died, reprised his role as T'Challa. So this show may actually feature the final performance, unless there's like some deleted scenes from Black Panther 1 they could like chop into Black Panther 2, like what they did with Carrie Fisher for Rise of Skywalker. That is possible. But if you take that away for a minute, this could actually end up being Chadwick Boseman's final performance as T'Challa. And it was so strangely eerie and yet comforting to hear him reprise this character and to hear him have fun with it, because this is a different T'Challa. This is one that was raised in space, not one that was raised in Wakanda. Also, how could I not mention Kurt Russell playing Ego, the Living Planet? How weird is it that Kurt Russell is doing this animated show and Batista couldn't? Like, that's weird to me. But anyways, I love the story. I love the way the show looked. I love the scene where they're all like hanging out. Just them hanging out was fun for me. Like, forget the action and the comedy. Well, there is comedy here, but them just kind of like hanging out in that restaurant or whatever at the bar. Drax is there with his wife and kid who are not dead. Like, all these little like Easter eggs and tributes to, the weapon list that that the collector has. Like all these little Easter eggs were appreciated, but it was actually the slice of life stuff that I really enjoyed. Like I did not want this episode to end. I wanted to go into this world because it was so wonderfully lighthearted and such an interesting look at how things could have been, if things were different, obviously. Thanos being a good guy, like there's a scene where he like rampages out as a good guy, and I'm just like, okay, that's awesome. The way they kind of redesigned Nebula was very cool. I'm having a hard time finding a flaw with this. I really am. This was the best episode of this series so far. I've only had two, but this blew away the first one, and it'll be a hard one to top. I loved What If episode 2. If there's somebody out there who is not really into animation, or maybe they aren't really sure about watching this show them this episode. Skip the first one. Show them this episode, and I think they will be hooked. At least I hope they will. But they'll at least appreciate this episode because it was quality. Those are my thoughts. What did you think? Let me know.